Welcome back to my channel, Valuable Rare Coins. If you love discovering hidden treasures in your pocket change, you're in the right place. First, we'll uncover some of the most valuable and rare US coins that could be worth a fortune. Let's dive in. That's exactly the story behind one of the most surprising coins in American numismatic history, the 1941 D Wheat Pennie. Don't blink, don't skip. Because this video may help you discover that the coin hiding in your drawer or coin jar could be the key to unlocking a fortune. Let's take a closer look at the legendary 1941 D Lincoln Wheat Cent. This coin was minted at the Denver Mint, identified by the small d below the year, and over 128 million of them were produced. That might sound like a lot, and it is. But here's the twist. While most of these coins were common, circulated, and forgotten, a very small number had minting errors, striking anomalies, and preserved conditions so rare that today, they're turning heads and breaking auction records. What exactly should you look for? What transforms an ordinary 1941 D penny into a jaw-dropping collectible? Let's start with one of the most coveted features, the double die obverse, often abbreviated as DDO. This happens when the die that imprints the design onto the coin is misaligned during production, resulting in a ghost-like doubling effect. On the 1941 D penny, this doubling is often most visible in the words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the numbers in the date 1941. Under magnification, these letters may appear thicker, shadowed, or like they've been printed twice, a clear signal to collectors that the coin may be something extraordinary. But the DDO isn't the only error to look for. Another major variety is the RPM, repunched mint mark. Because mint marks were hand-punched into the dies in 1941, there were occasional mistakes. Some of these coins show a second D just slightly offset from the first. It might look like a blur or a shadow beneath the mint mark. These RPM coins are highly sought after and have been known to command thousands of dollars, even in mid-range grades, and then there are the die cracks and die breaks. These appear when a coin die is damaged or worn. On some 1941 D pennies, you might see raised lines or bumps across Lincoln's face or behind his head. These are called cuds, and to the right collector, they're like gold. They indicate an unusual event during minting, and some are so rare that very few examples exist. You also want to keep an eye out for off-center strikes and broad-struck errors, where the coin's design is shifted or not fully formed. In cases where the entire date and mint mark are still visible despite the strike error, the value skyrockets. Now, let's talk grading and condition, because even the rarest error won't fetch top dollar if the coin is heavily worn. Collectors use a grading scale from 1 to 70, with mint state, MS, 60 or higher being the golden range. If you've got a 1941 D penny with sharp detail, bright luster, and minimal wear, especially with a red or red-brown tone, you might be sitting on a treasure. And what's a treasure without a story? Let me tell you about a recent auction that stunned everyone. A nearly flawless 1941 D Wheat Pennie, with a bold, double die obverse and near-perfect surfaces, appeared in a national coin show. The bidding war that followed was intense. Collectors knew they were looking at something historic. When the final gavel struck, the price stunned the entire room. That little 1-cent coin sold for a jaw-dropping $440,000. Yes, $440,000. For a coin most people wouldn't even notice in their change. This is the kind of numismatic magic that makes the hunt so thrilling. Here's your mission. Check your coin jars, old collections, and flea market finds. Get yourself a good magnifying glass or loupe. Inspect every 1941 D penny carefully. Look at the date, the mint mark, the words, the rim. Are there signs of doubling? An odd mint mark? A crack or bulge on the surface? These clues could lead you to something truly remarkable, and collectors, this is where I need your help. If you've ever found a strange or beautiful 1941 D Wheat Pennie, tell us about it in the comments. Let's build a community of knowledge and passion. Ask questions, share photos, connect with others who know that the value of a coin goes far beyond its face. Second rare coin, we're talking about one of the most intriguing coins in American history, the 1944 United States Wheat Penny 1 cent. This coin is not just a piece of copper. It's a piece of World War II-era America, full of history, mystery, and for a lucky few, serious money. And let me tell you, one particular variety of this coin has stunned the coin world by selling for a massive $210,000. But what makes this coin so special? Why do collectors hunt for it obsessively? And what do you need to look for to know if your 1944 penny might be the next six-figure star? Let's dive into the secrets of the 1944 Wheat Penny, a coin that might just change your life. In 1944, America was in the thick of World War II. The US Mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies that year, mostly made from copper, unlike the rare steel cents from 1943. So at first glance, the 1944 penny might seem pretty ordinary. After all, over 1.4 billion of them were minted. That doesn't sound rare, does it? But here's the twist. Only a very few of those pennies carry errors and variations so rare, so unexpected, that they've become legendary among collectors. One of the most famous is the 1944 steel penny. Yes, you heard that right. While 1943 was the year the U.S. minted pennies in steel to save copper for the war effort, a few steel planchets, the metal discs meant for 1943 coins, accidentally got used in 1944. If you find a 1944 penny that sticks to a magnet, stop everything. You may be holding a mistake that's worth a fortune. These rare 1944 steel cents are some of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered, but there's more. Even among the standard copper 1944 pennies, there are errors and features that make them extremely collectible. Let's break a few of them down. First, the doubled die errors. These are incredibly exciting for collectors. A double die happens when the die, the metal stamp that presses the coin, is misaligned or shifted between strikes. The result? You might see doubling in the words Liberty, In God We Trust, or even the date 1944. Look closely. Even with a magnifying glass, doubled letters are usually thick, blurry, or show shadows. And if your penny has this kind of error, you could be sitting on something truly valuable. Next, the repunched mint mark, especially the 1944 D RPM. Back then, mint marks like D for Denver were punched in by hand, so mistakes happened. A repunched mint mark will look like a faint second D beneath or beside the main one. It's subtle, but collectors go wild for it, especially if the coin is in great condition. You should also check for off-center strikes, where the design is shifted noticeably to one side, and broad strikes, where the rim is missing due to an error in the collar during minting. These kinds of errors are visual and striking and can increase a coin's value dramatically. Now, what about grading? As always, condition is king. A 1944 penny in poor shape might be worth a few cents. But in mint state, meaning it looks almost brand new, with full shine and detail, the value goes up significantly. Coins that are MS 65 or higher, especially those with the red color designation, are where things start to get really exciting. And if you're lucky enough to have one of these error pennies and it's in high grade, well, that's when auction houses start to take notice. In a recent auction that stunned the numismatic community, a 1944 wheat penny with a rare steel planchet and excellent preservation crossed the auction block. With intense bidding from collectors around the world, the final sale price blew everyone away. That single coin, just 1 cent's worth of metal, sold for an astounding $210,000. Can you believe it? $210,000. For a coin that might have passed through thousands of hands without anyone noticing its true value. So here's your challenge. Go check your coins. Pull out that old coin jar. Ask your grandparents. Look at your 1944 pennies. Use a magnet. Get a magnifying glass. Examine every letter, every number, every mint mark. Because that little detail might be the difference between 1 cent and 6 figures, and to all the collectors out there, let's share the knowledge. If you've ever found a 1944 penny with something unusual, drop a comment below. Describe what you saw, Ask questions, share photos. This community is full of sharp eyes and big discoveries, and your find might inspire someone else. Third expensive coin, we're diving into the incredible story of the 1937 Wheat Penny, a coin that looks ordinary to the untrained eye, but has hidden secrets that have shocked even the most experienced coin collectors. You do not want to miss this video, especially if you've got a stash of old coins at home, because what I'm about to reveal might change the way you see your pocket change forever. Let's start with some background. The 1937 Lincoln Wheat Penny was minted during a time when America was slowly recovering from the Great Depression. Millions of these coins were produced at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. In fact, the total mintage for all three mints was over 300 million coins. So at first glance, you might think this is just another common cent, right? Wrong. Because tucked inside those millions of pennies are a few extraordinary errors and rare varieties that make these coins worth far more than a cent, some up to $500,000. Now listen closely, especially if you're a collector or a coin hunter. These details can make or break the value of your coin. One of the most fascinating error types on the 1937 penny is the doubled die obverse, known to collectors as a DDO. This kind of error happens when the coin's die, the piece of metal that stamps the coin, shifts slightly between impressions, creating a visible doubling effect. On the 1937 penny, this doubling is often seen in the date, the word liberty, and in God we trust. If you notice shadowy or doubled edges on the letters and numbers, don't ignore it. That could be a doubled die error, and it's a serious treasure. Another key error to look for is the repunched mint mark, or RPM. This is especially relevant for coins from the Denver, D, and San Francisco, S mints. Back in 1937, mint marks were still hand-punched into the dies, and if the worker didn't get it quite right the first time, they would punch again, often slightly off-center. This leaves behind a shadow or a ghost-like second mint mark underneath the main one. These coins are very collectible, especially in higher grades, and let's not forget off-center strikes and broad-stroke errors. These errors happen when the coin isn't seated correctly during striking, leaving it lopsided or missing part of the design. As long as the date and mint mark are still visible, off-center 1937 pennies can be worth a small fortune. Then there's the die break, sometimes called a cud. That's when the die cracks during striking, leaving a raised blob or ridge on the coin's surface. If you spot a strange lump or extra metal around the rim or the bust of Lincoln, that might be a cud, and these are incredibly popular among error collectors. Now, let's talk about grading and condition, which are absolutely critical. A 1937 penny with one of these rare errors, but in poor condition, might still fetch a few $100s. But a coin in mint state, MS 63 and above, with brilliant, uncirculated luster and sharp detail, becomes a whole new story. If it also has red color designation, meaning the copper hasn't dulled or turned brown, it can multiply the value exponentially. So, what kind of money are we talking about? Well, recently a 1937 Wheat Penny with a significant double die error, in pristine condition, went up for auction. Collectors immediately recognized the rarity and condition of this coin. The bids started high and kept climbing. What happened next shocked even the auctioneers. After a heated battle, the hammer finally fell. The coin sold for a record-breaking $500,000. Yes, you heard that right. $500,000. For a penny. A tiny copper coin that most people would walk past without a second glance. This is why coin collecting is not just a hobby, it's a treasure hunt. So here's your challenge. Go through your collection. Grab a magnifying glass. Look at every 1937 penny you own. Check for doubling in the letters and date. Inspect the mint mark for signs of repunching. Look at the edges for cracks, breaks, or off-center strikes. Because you never know, you might just be holding a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And to all the collectors watching, I want to hear from you. Have you ever found a strange or rare 1937 penny? Have questions about a coin in your collection? Drop a comment below and let's help each other discover these hidden gems. Especially, we're talking about the 1951 United States Wheat Pennie 1 cent, and let me tell you, this isn't just any penny. It's a coin that collectors chase with passion. A coin that might seem ordinary at first glance, but under the surface, it hides secrets that could make it worth a staggering fortune. Yes, I'm serious. So coin lovers and collectors, pay very close attention, because what I'm about to share could turn a forgotten coin into your greatest find. The 1951 Wheat Pennie was minted during a period when the US Mint was churning out coins to meet the demands of a post-war economy. It was a time of booming industries and growing prosperity, and millions of these pennies were made, over 1 billion, to be exact, spread across the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. With such high numbers, it might sound like this coin is too common to be valuable, but here's the twist: not all 1951 wheat pennies are created equal. While the majority were mass-produced and circulated for decades, a select few came off the presses with extraordinary errors and striking features that set them apart. These rare variations are what collectors live for. Let's talk about the errors that make the 1951 penny truly valuable. First, one of the most coveted types is the doubled die obverse, DDO. This error happens when the coin die shifts slightly during production, creating a doubling effect on the coin's design. On a 1951 penny, this can be spotted in areas like the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." If you've got one of these, especially in great condition, you're looking at a seriously valuable piece. Next, you need to check the mint mark, the small letter beneath the date. Coins from Denver, D, and San Francisco, S, mints can contain what's known as a repunched mint mark, or RPM. Back in the day, mint marks were hand-punched, and sometimes they'd be punched more than once, creating a shadowed or doubled appearance. If you can spot that extra punch clearly under magnification, you're looking at a coin collectors will fight over. Another type of error you should be watching for is the off-center strike. These coins are stamped incorrectly, causing the design to be off balance, sometimes even missing part of Lincoln's portrait. As long as the date is visible, these mistakes can add huge value, and don't ignore die cracks, cuds, and broad strikes. All of these are minting mishaps that collectors adore. A die crack might look like a raised line across the coin's surface, a cud will appear as a blob of extra metal near the rim, and a broad strike results in a coin that's oddly wide or warped. These coins are unique, and their imperfections make them perfect for serious collections. But what about condition? Well, that's where value truly skyrockets. A rare error coin in poor condition might be worth a few $100s. But a coin in mint state condition, graded MS, 63 or above, with full original red luster, that's when you've got a real treasure. And if it's been stored safely, untouched for decades, you might be sitting on a gold mine. Let me give you a real-world example. Recently, a 1951 wheat penny with a dramatic double die and flawless red mint state condition made headlines at a major US auction. The coin had been passed down in a family for generations, sitting quietly in a coin album. When it finally went under the hammer, bidding was fierce. Collectors from around the country knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime piece. When the final bid came in, jaws dropped. That single 1951 wheat penny sold for an astonishing $180,000. Yes, $180,000 for a single penny. That's the power of rarity, condition, and historical significance. So, if you have a 1951 penny lying around, take it out. Examine it. Look at the date under a magnifying glass. Look closely at the mint mark. Study the edges. If you see doubling, if you see a repunched mark, if anything looks slightly off, do not ignore it. Get it checked. Get it graded. Because you just might be holding a fortune in your hands. Collectors, I want to hear from you. Have you come across a rare 1951 penny? Do you have questions about what to look for? Maybe you inherited a collection and don't know where to start. Drop your questions and discoveries in the comments. We love reading them, and who knows, your comment might help another collector identify a hidden gem. Next coin, we're talking about the 1953 United States Wheat Pennie 1 cent, a humble copper coin that, under the right circumstances, has the power to surprise even the most experienced collectors. At first glance, the 1953 Wheat Pennie might not seem like a rare piece. After all, the United States Mint produced hundreds of millions of them, over 700 million from the Philadelphia Mint alone, and millions more from Denver and San Francisco. But here's where it gets interesting. Quantity doesn't always equal commonness. Among these millions, there are a few coins with unique errors, fascinating imperfections, and minting mysteries that transform them into incredibly rare and expensive collectibles. Let's talk about what makes a 1953 penny so valuable. One of the most sought-after error types is the doubled die obverse. Imagine looking at your coin under magnification and seeing a clear doubling of the date or the words Liberty or In God We Trust. This doubling happens during the minting process when the die strikes the coin improperly, creating a ghost-like second image. Coins with this error can command huge premiums, especially if they're in mint state condition. Another rare and exciting error to watch for is the repunched mint mark, especially on coins from the Denver or San Francisco mints. These mint marks, the small d or s under the date, were hand-punched in 1953. Sometimes, the mint worker would accidentally punch it more than once in slightly different locations, creating what looks like a shadow or doubling effect. Collectors absolutely love these kinds of variations because they're easy to see and incredibly scarce. Then there are off-center strikes, coins that were not properly aligned during the minting process. You might see Lincoln's face shifted to one side or part of the design cut off entirely. If the date is still visible, these off-center errors can add serious value. There are also die cracks and cuts, which are the result of the coin die wearing out or breaking during production. These appear as raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin's surface. While each one is unique, a dramatic die break or cut on a 1953 penny can attract serious interest from error coin collectors. So, how do you know if your 1953 penny is one of the valuable ones? First, examine it under a good magnifying glass. Look for clear signs of doubling, especially around the date and lettering. Check the mint mark for any repunching. And inspect the edges for any odd shapes, cracks, or alignment issues. Condition plays a huge role. 2. A coin that has been in circulation and is worn down may still be worth something if it has a rare error. But if you've got a 1953 penny in brilliant, uncirculated, or red mint state condition, especially with a major error, you're sitting on something truly special. Let's talk real numbers. Recently, in private sales and collector auctions, high-grade 1953 wheat pennies with strong doubling or mint mark errors have fetched thousands, and in some cases, tens of thousands of dollars. A well-preserved example with a strong error and full red luster can generate bidding wars that go far beyond what most people would expect for a coin this size. And yes, there has even been a verified sale of a near-perfect 1953 wheat penny, featuring both a clear double die and vibrant red coloration that was graded by a top-tier grading service and authenticated by experts. When the gavel dropped at that auction, the final price shocked even seasoned dealers. That single copper penny, a coin many would overlook, sold for $199,000. Yes, you heard that right. A small 1-cent coin minted over 70 years ago reached a final sale price of $199,000. This is exactly why collectors never stop searching. Because you never know when a common coin in your change jar, tucked away in a box, or passed down from a relative, could turn out to be something life-changing. So now I want to hear from you. Do you have a 1953 wheat penny in your collection? Have you ever spotted one with a strange error or unusual feature? Drop your stories and questions in the comments. This is a space for collectors to share, connect, and learn from each other. Last unique coin, we're talking about a little copper coin with big potential, the United States Wheat Pennie 1 cent from 1957. Now, don't let its simple design fool you. There's more to this penny than meets the eye, and by the end of this video, you'll understand why collectors are going crazy over certain versions of it. The 1957 Wheat Pennie marks one of the final years of the iconic wheat reverse design. That elegant pair of wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent. This classic design, used from 1909 to 1958, is beloved by collectors for its vintage charm and historical importance. In 1957, the US Mint struck these coins at both the Philadelphia Mint, with no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, marked with a D under the date, with hundreds of millions produced. You're probably wondering, how can a coin that was minted in such high quantities ever become rare or valuable? That's where the story gets really interesting. It's not just the age of a coin that gives it value, it's the condition, the rarity of errors, and the uniqueness of each piece that makes certain coins skyrocket in price. And the 1957 Wheat Penny is no exception. Let's talk about the types of errors you should look for that can turn this penny into a treasure. First, one of the most well-known and sought-after errors is the doubled die obverse. This is where part of the coin's design appears to have a ghost-like duplicate, most often seen in the date, the words Liberty, or the phrase In God We Trust. This doubling happens during the minting process when the die strikes the coin slightly off or more than once. A bold, easily visible doubled die can fetch serious money at auction, especially in mint state. Another exciting error is the repunched mint mark, RPM, especially on coins from the Denver Mint. This happens when the small d under the date was stamped more than once, but not perfectly aligned. Look closely with a magnifier. You might see a D slightly overlapping another D. These errors are loved by collectors because they're visual, verifiable, and rare. Also, be on the lookout for off-center strikes. These are coins that were not perfectly centered in the press when struck, causing Lincoln's portrait or parts of the reverse design to shift noticeably to one side. Depending on how far off-center the strike is and whether the date is still fully visible, this error can boost the coin's value significantly. Die cracks, cuts, and struck-through errors are also game-changers. Die cracks appear as raised lines, usually on the rim or fields. A cud is a chunk of metal near the rim caused by a piece of the die breaking off. A struck-through error happens when something like a piece of cloth or wire gets between the die and the blank coin during striking, leaving a deep impression. These kinds of mint mistakes are uncommon and highly collectible. Now, condition plays a massive role in determining value. A 1957 penny in poor condition, even with an error, might bring a modest return. But a brilliant uncirculated, red luster coin with a major error? That's where the big dollars come in. Let's take a real-world example. At a recent coin show auction, a 1957 D Wheat Pennie with a bold, doubled die and perfect red, uncirculated surface was showcased. It had been graded by a top-tier service, MS 66 RD, and when it hit the auction block, collectors knew they were looking at something special. The bidding war was intense. And when the gavel finally dropped, the final price stunned everyone in the room. That single 1957 Wheat Pennie sold for $100,000. Yes, $100,000 for a coin that originally bought a stick of gum or a single stamp. Now, I want you to imagine this. What if you have one just like it sitting in your piggy bank? Or passed down from a grandparent? These coins are still out there, waiting to be discovered. And if you know what to look for, you could be the next lucky collector to strike it rich. Take a few minutes today to check your collection. Look at your 1957 pennies under a magnifier. Study the mint mark. Examine the date. Search for doubling. And if you see something strange, don't ignore it. You might be looking at a treasure. And now I want to hear from you. Have you ever found a 1957 Wheat Pennie with an unusual error? Or maybe you've got a question about how to get your coins appraised or graded. Drop your stories and questions in the comments. We read everyone, and you never know who you might help or inspire with your experience.